Hi, folks. Welcome back to another episode of RunYogi Diaries. This is your host, Santosh Shiva. Every week, I bring you conversations with people who are on a journey of well being and fitness through endurance sports. I hope they spark some possibility in you, leave you with some tips, and perhaps inspire you to perspire. This episode is also available on leading podcast platforms if audio is your thing. Also, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to it. Hit like if you like this video, and remember to leave your comments. Let us know if you took something away. In the house today is a young man who has made mountaineering his core purpose in life. An Everest summiter himself, his mission is to make adventure sport mainstream in India. We explore how mountains became a part of his life, what got him to give up a lucrative engineering career to become a professional mountaineer, his approach to training for big summits, challenges of sponsorship, and finally, what is next for him. Let's welcome Parth Upadhyaya. All right, hey Parth, welcome to RunYogi Diaries.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on your show, man. Means a lot.
Oh no, absolutely. It's you have such a fascinating story
Uh-huh.
of mountaineering at a very young age, and you've dedicated your
Yes.
life to
Yes.
mountaineering, which is so fascinating. Not many people do that, so we have a lot to learn from you and how you do it and why you do it. So before that, maybe can I request that you do a quick personal introduction,
Oh, yes.
and then we'll
Oh, yes,
jump in.
absolutely. So I'll start with my name. My name is Parth Upadhyay. I am from Mumbai, 26 saal ka hu. I'm 26 years of age. What do I do? Well, I only know one thing, which is to climb mountains, and I do that for a living. Uh, and for me, this started when I saw a dream of climbing Everest at the age of 15, and at the age of 24, 9 years later, on 23rd May 2019 at 5 in the morning, I made that dream come true for me. And the whole journey has been like completely life changing, I would say, in more ways than people can imagine. But yeah, that's what I do. I climb mountains for a living,
Yeah.
and ever since I climbed Everest, I've been trying to spread awareness about adventure sports at a grassroots level in our country in India, because I think it's very important to do it in the right way, because adventure sports and mountaineering has just been born in India, so it's very important to nurture it right. So yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I've been doing.
Perfect. And where do you live? Tell us. Which you live now remote. You don't live in Mumbai anymore. You live somewhere remote in part
Oh,
of
yes,
Maharashtra,
absolutely.
correct?
So my family still stays in Mumbai, but I stay in a small village called Bhivpuri. It's near the town of Karjat in Maharashtra. It's in the Sahyadri hills. So, it's like it's as simple as that. To If you want to be a swimmer, you spend more time in the pool. If you want to be a cyclist, you spend more time on the cycle. If you want to climb mountains, spend more time in the mountains. So simply keeping that in mind, I stay in the hills. And after you've experienced the silence and the beauty of mountains, you anyways don't like or enjoy the city hustle, city life. So I've consciously made my life into a very simple routine. Good food, good people around me, good air around me, and a very basic routine to keep myself healthy physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Terrific. Terrific. All right. No, that's a great introduction, Parth. So let's maybe do a bit of a
Ah,
flashback in terms of how you got to how did you make a ended up how did you end up making a choice of this kind in your life. So you said at the age of 15 you started mountaineering, so let's get there.
yes, yes, of course.
What happened?
uh, Ever since my school days, I was not good in academics. I was not good in any kind of extracurricular activities. I was not good in anything, basically. I was just a lost kind of a person trying to find where he fits in this world. And very strangely, like this might sound very wrong to many people, but I didn't even fit at my own home. I felt like I'm out of place even in my home, because there was and for the first time in my life, when I went for a trek at the age of 15, which was on a place called Mount Kalsubai. It's the highest peak of Maharashtra. This was the first ever
Okay.
time I went out with a group of strangers, and completely pushing my comfort zone out, because I was a complete introvert. Like introvert up to a point where I could not even introduce myself without stammering or getting lost or scared. I was that kind of an introvert. But for the first time in my life, when I went for that trek at the age of 15, I felt like I've come home. For the first time in the 15 years of my time on this planet, I've come home. And suddenly I was able to talk to everybody so confidently. I was feeling so comfortable within my own body. I was feeling so comfortable just the way I am. I didn't have to pretend to be anybody else. I didn't have to fake anything for anybody else. I didn't care, because I was at home. When you are at home, you don't care what you do. So that's how it was for me in the mountains. That was my first introduction, and I thought, okay, this is, I found my home, so I think I need to go here again and again. And but one incident I remember very clearly in my mind. On the summit of this peak, Mount Kalsubai, I saw the sun rising. And I just thought to myself, as the innocent 15-year-old, that if the sunrise from this small hill looks so beautiful, so magnificent, how would the sunrise look from the highest peak in the world? And just this imagination, and that's when the seeds of climbing Everest were sown into my mind. And while I was coming down, I promised myself that no matter what it takes in this lifetime, I want to climb Everest and see that sunrise. चाहे कुछ भी हो जाए फिर यार फिर बहाने नहीं देने. And I think that's how the initiation happened into mountaineering.
So, who introduced you to this trek? Did somebody give you a introduction to mountaineering, the benefit of it? How did you get
Oh
into
yes,
this trek for the
absolutely.
first
I'm
place?
I'm very glad you caught that, because most people, वो सोचते नहीं है ये सब कि यहाँ तक कैसे पहुंचे. चलो पहला ट्रैक तो किया, but how did that
Uh-huh.
happen? Well, a few days
Uh-huh.
before this trek, I was sitting at home with my family. It was just after my board exams, 10th exams, and it's a long summer vacation. It's from March till May, June. It's like a
Mhm.
huge vacation. So
Yeah.
in Indian homes, it's always like in the vacations, you have to do something extracurricular activities, learn something, which is a good
Mm.
thing in a way. But I was not interested
Yeah.
in anything. I didn't care to do anything. I'm at my home, I'm peaceful. I don't need to do anything else. So my parents were in a
Yeah.
way a
Yeah.
little fed up of me being in the home for 3 months. कुछ नहीं कर रहा है लड़का. एसएससी में भी, बोर्ड में भी एग्जाम में मार्क्स अच्छे नहीं आने वाले, पता था उनको. So one fine evening, my dad was seeing a news coverage, just another evening, and he called me in. He said, "Ye dekh, in the news, it was a coverage of a 16-year-old boy from Noida who climbed Mount Everest. It was back in 2010, and I sat and watched that news coverage. The way that young man was explaining his experiences, the journey, and especially the sunrise, the way he used his words to explain the sunrise, it just caught my imagination. I was like, such a world exists. People do something like this at my age. I had no idea, and it was like a complete eye opener for me. And I asked my dad, "Dad, even I want to climb Everest." He looked at me like this and he's like, "You're barely going to pass your board exams." No, then I was a little upset, and he saw that. So he's like, "Okay, I know a few friends who treks in the Sahyadris. So why don't you start with that? You see what climbing mountains is all about, and then फिर देखते हैं अगर एवरेस्ट करना है तो." So then he made a few calls, and
The-
on the upcoming
yeah.
weekend
Yeah.
I went for this trek to Kalsubai. So that's how it started for me.
Nice. Very nice. So your father has a role to play in
Oh
this.
yes, 100%.
Oh, although with the board exam you weren't giving much of hope, but at least he didn't stop you from doing this. So
No,
that's very nice of him.
absolutely, and he was like, "Ki, chalo, at least you'll do something in the vacations. Maybe it's go in the outdoors and meet new people." And I think it
Yeah,
worked out
yeah.
wonders. Who knew what that would bring in my life, huh?
So is mountaineering or any kind of sports a thing in your family at all, or is it something you're doing completely out
I'll
of
tell you. I'll tell you. My
nature?
my past five generations are doctors. Five generations. Can you
Okay.
imagine? Matlab, I was the one who was supposed to carry the legacy ahead, and I just completely broke the chain. But no background from my father's side, or from my mother's side, or in my friend circle, or in anywhere. It's like a complete new thing I've brought into our family. So no background, nothing like
Right.
that.
So your family is into preventive medicine, but now you are into no, they are into curing
Yes,
diseases,
absolutely.
but you are into preventing
That's so well
diseases.
said.
So in a way, it's a good.
That's so well said.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. All right. So coming back, so you did your first trek, and you on your way down, you decided you're
Hmm.
going to be climb Mount
Hmm.
Everest. You were 15 at
Yeah,
that time, and then it took you what about 7 or 8 years
nine
before
years.
you actually
9
summited.
years. Yeah.
9 years. So let's hear about that. What were you doing for 9 years
Oh,
to get to that point?
uh, so there are two parallels here. One would, of course, be the normal routine education system that a child has to go through.
Uh-huh.
The 11th, the 12th, then the competitive exams, and
Yeah,
then I
yeah.
chose engineering. I don't know in what
Mm.
state of mind I chose it, but I did because I had nothing else to do. So you just do what comes in front of you. So I
Yeah.
went into aircraft maintenance engineering because airplanes is something I truly, truly, truly love just as much as I love mountains. As much as so that if I am standing outside the airport and if I hear the engines roar, I can tell you which engines they are. I love it so much. But so keeping that love in mind, I went for this engineering. But the kind of unfortunate education system that still goes on in India, it completely destroyed my passion. In the college I went to open my mind and to learn new things and to try new things, and I had so much in my mind that I wanted to try. But out there all they cared about was reading a few things, mugging up them, and then writing them down on a piece of paper and then forgetting them. And so parallelly I was also falling in love with the mountains, the journey that had started for me in the trekking world. uh, Monthly, maybe one or two treks in the Sahyadris I used to do. And on one of those treks, I met an expert of our field. And I just shared this idea of me wanting to climb Mount Everest. And first of all, in my early days in that college phase, I was very fat. I was literally healthy, मतलब अच्छा खासा मोटा था मैं. So मुझे देख के तो पहले उसने बोला, do you even know what it takes to climb Mount Everest? You have to train so much, you have to climb so many mountains, you need so much money. And he was in a way trying to negatively intimidate me,
Mhm.
but it didn't work.
Uh,
It didn't work. So no, I asked
uh-huh.
him, no, okay, you know how it's to be done. So tell me my first step.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me that?
Mhm.
He said if you want to climb Mount Everest, you need to do the basic mountaineering course. So that's when I was like, okay, I
Mhm.
know now what I have to actually do, not just dream and obsess with,
Mhm.
you know, the idea. Now I have a proper step to take.
Yeah.
So I researched about it, and it was a 28-day course in the Indian Himalayas. There are five institutes in India, uh, and it's a government course, so it's very cheap. It's very affordable for everybody who wants to do it. So, 28 days getting a break from engineering or your classes and everything was practically impossible. So I signed up for 2016
Mhm.
when my engineering was supposed to be over. So I went for this mountaineering course, and never in my wildest of dreams. So now, since 2010 to 2016, 6 years now, And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
doing all sorts of things, engineering and whatnot, but my mind was completely obsessed with Everest. My room was filled with posters of Everest. The altitude of Everest, which is 8848 meters, was written all over my room, in my cupboard. If I open my drawer, you will see 8848 written with a marker or whatever, like I was completely into it. So 6 years later, after obsessing with Everest, I went to this course. And now I could never imagine that there is an institute where they actually teach you to climb mountains. Like it was like a fairy tale, fairy tale-ish place for me. Everybody around me was somebody
Yeah.
who, just like me, loved climbing mountains. And those 28 days were probably the best days of my life, I would say, completely. And in that course, I met an instructor who had climbed Everest before. So I used to be like a hungry dog running behind him all day, asking him all sorts of questions about Everest or his experiences and whatnot. And uske
Yeah.
through,
Yeah.
unke baaton ke through, I understood this one thing, that there are three foundations that I need to focus on.
Hmm.
First one is the mountaineering experience. Second is the physical fitness. Third is the fundraising,
Hmm.
pesa, money.
Hmm.
So after this
Hmm.
course was done, I had the necessary skills now to go about climb the real mountains. So it's like you learn
Right.
ABCD of mountaineering in this course, but how to
Hmm.
use those ABCD to form words, sentences, paragraphs, you learn when you go and climb real mountains. So then I
Yeah.
went about climbing a lot of 5,000 and 6,000 meter peaks in the Indian Himalayas, where I learned the
Hmm.
basics of how an actual expedition is. You face bad weather, you face bad health, you face
Hmm.
all sorts of adverse conditions, which conditions you into a proper mountaineer, which gives you the very necessary
Hmm.
experience up there. So I think this was very important. For 2 years, I was staying in either Ladakh or Manali or Uttarakhand, not coming back to
Hmm.
Mumbai, just staying there and climbing peak after peak, peak
Hmm.
after peak.
Hmm.
Then I in 2017 I came back home, in this home in Mumbai, in this very room where I am right
Hmm.
now. I remember this very clearly.
Okay.
Uh, I sat down on my bed and I thought, okay, it's been 7 years now, since I am dreaming of Everest. I have the skills, I have
Hmm.
the experience now after climbing so many mountains.
Hmm.
So now I need to work on my physical fitness and fundraising. These two things can be done simultaneously. So I was like, okay, let's give myself a realistic target, a deadline, a date,
Hmm.
a time. And I said, okay, it would take me 2 years to work on myself and to raise the money. So in 2019, April, no matter what it takes, I want to attempt Everest. So that's
Hmm.
when my Everest specific preparation began. So, as I said in the beginning, that the best kind of training for mountaineering is to be in the mountains. So, I shifted to that
Hmm.
village, Bhivpuri, near Karjat in the Sahyadri Hills in
Hmm.
Maharashtra. Uh, and I started investing each and every second of my life in building myself up on four levels:
Hmm.
physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The life that we know of as a
Hmm.
human being happens in these four dimensions. And to climb Everest with
Hmm.
proper in a proper way, all these four dimensions of your life needs to be in sync. It cannot be like you are physically
Hmm.
very fit, but mentally you are depressed or stressed or whatever. It doesn't work that way. Or if you are
Hmm.
physically and mentally fit, your life energies are not stable, they are always in a flux. It doesn't work that way if you want to climb Mount Everest.
Hmm.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
most people do climb Everest without focusing on these four dimensions. They just focus on the physical,
Hmm.
which is the easiest thing to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
And just by fluke, it happens. And I'm saying this very consciously. So, yes, I'll just take you through how a day in my life used to look like. So, you'll get an idea ki,
Hmm.
how was my training routine for Everest. I used,
So before
yeah,
that,
yeah.
before
hmm
that, before that, you also said, a lot of gold. By the way, a lot of gold in what you
hmm
just shared. Beautifully put
hmm
together, right? It really give somebody like me who's never
hmm
mountaineered a sense of what it takes to
G.
start. You also mentioned that you climbed a few of the mountains peaks in Himalayas as a part of
Mhm,
preparation,
mhm,
right? Like 6,000 meters
mhm,
and 5,000
mhm.
meters. That must have also been quite difficult and challenging, right? And you must have gotten yourself physically at least ready for
Yes.
it. So would it be fair to say that you were already physically ready? You were to kind of build the other aspects of it for
Mhm.
for Everest. Does that
Oh,
does
yes,
that make sense?
absolutely. So, to climb even a 5,000 or a 6,000 meter high mountain, it takes immense level of fitness. Uh, and as I mentioned that in my engineering days, I was very heavy. बहुत ज़्यादा वजन था मेरा. तो engineering जब भी मैं कर रहा था तभी ही मैंने अ, तभी ही मैंने वर्कआउट वगैरह स्टार्ट किया था. सो तभी मेरे पास कोई गाइडेंस नहीं था, ना ही आई हैड एनी गुड नॉलेज अबाउट हाउ टू एग्जैक्टली गो अबाउट इट. सो आई जस्ट रेड दिस वन थिंग समवेयर, that running is a good exercise to increase your stamina. So I started running like crazy.
Okay.
Ran for 6 months. I lost weight up to a point where I looked malnourished. I looked malnourished. Itna patla, I shrunk completely. And I think, and then I started getting sick. Every month, at least once or twice, I used to get cold, cough, or fever. And I was, this is something new. This never happened with me in my life. So then I spoke to a doctor, and then he asked me that. So he knew me, he's my family doctor. So he was like, I saw you 6 months ago, you were quite healthy. What happened to you? Now he was worried, like genuinely, like, is it some disease or something? I said, no, I've been running every day. He's like, you are a crazy person. You don't do that. You've lost all your
Okay.
muscles, because when you are doing cardio workout, you lose a lot of muscles. So along with your cardio, you also need to do strength and muscle building workouts to balance it out. So this was a huge mistake I made in my life. And I in a way did more damage than good. But I started I cut down my running, and I started reading about this. And one book I came across, which I think your listeners, whoever wants to climb mountains and who are serious about physically and emotionally and mentally preparing about it, they must read this book called Training for the New Alpinism by Scott Johnston and Steve House. So I came across this book, and this is like a bible for everybody who wants to climb mountains. Through this, I got a little understanding of what training routine should be like, specific to mountaineering. And I, in a way, designed my plan accordingly while I was in my engineering. And every day in the morning, I used to invest around 1.5 to 2 hours before my lectures. uh, there was a playground, and there was a gym in the hostel where I used to go. And I think it was in 2014 or 15, that's when this journey of me into fitness began, even before I stepped into the mountains, because I knew this one thing, that I need to be fit before I step into the mountains. Even for the course that I had signed up for, I needed to be fit. And
Okay.
and through doing
Okay.
things here and there, I learned. And I like, that was probably the biggest mistake I made in terms of my fitness, but I learned a lot from it. And I think mistakes are the best way to learn in life. They are the best teachers in the world. But provided you learn from it smartly.
Yeah. 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 So what I'm hearing is that by the time you did your course, your mountaineering course, and then you went ahead and did some of those, I wouldn't say smaller mountains, but smaller compared to Everest. You did a whole bunch of those. You were already in physically good shape,
I would say I was
and
40% there for Everest.
yeah, bring that. Okay, okay, got it. Okay, makes sense. That
Hmm.
clear, very
Hmm.
clear. So now coming back to you were just beginning to take us through your a day in a life of training for Everest. Let's get back into that.
Yes, absolutely. So A day in my life for Everest used to start at around 3:30 in the morning. Uh, and
Mm.
I was somebody in my childhood, in my growing up years. My mom and dad are here. Maybe someday we can do a podcast with them, and you can ask them how my. But I used to be a like waking me up used to be the biggest task for them. Like 8 baje, 9 baje, they used to kick me, and only then I used to wake up. But here I was staying in the mountains all by myself, nobody to wake me up. But I used to wake up 5 minutes before the alarm used to ring. And I realized that when you are doing something that you truly care for, when you are investing your life in something that truly matters to you, it does not feel like work. Going to school felt like a burden, going to college felt like a burden. But when you love something, when you know that you are investing your life into something that you truly care for, it does not feel like work to you. And that's what was happening to me out there. I used to wake up every day in the morning with this thought in my mind that I get a chance to invest one more day into building myself up for my dream, for what I truly care for once in my life. And with that passion, I used to wake up with that excitement at around 3:30, 3:40 in the morning. I used to wake up. And
Wow.
as I said, that there were four dimensions: physically, mentally, emotionally, and
Mhm.
spiritually. So in the morning, I used to
Mhm.
work on my mind, emotions, and my energies. Mind and emotions are, in my experience, are not two different things. They are just two
Mhm.
sides of one coin. One is a drier side, which is
Yeah.
mind. Second is a little juicy side, which is the emotions. Emotions are a
Mhm.
consequence
Mhm.
of your mind, your thoughts, how you react to
Yeah.
situations. So
Mhm.
before my
Mhm.
physical workout began, I used to invest some time on building these three up. In the sense, I used to uh, do a little meditation. And what exactly I used to do was, it's a very sad thing that we all know how to be physically fit. It's simple: eat right, be active. But we don't know how to be mentally fit. There's nobody from school or college or in the family who tells you how to be mentally
Yeah.
fit.
Yeah.
And what does mentally fit actually mean? It just means that
Mhm.
your mind, which is a human being's biggest weapon or a biggest blessing, what separates
Mhm.
us from the other creatures,
Mhm. Mhm.
the mind that
Mhm.
we have unfortunately works against us in the way
Mhm.
of, you can call it stress, you can call it anxiety, you can
Yeah.
call it depression or jealousy or anger, so many
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
names. Basically
Mhm.
your mind
Yeah.
is working against you, and that's a disaster. I mean,
Mhm.
if your own hand starts punching you, what can you do?
Mhm.
If somebody else
Mhm.
is punching you, you can do
Yeah.
something. But if your own hand is
Yeah.
punching you, what can you do? So that's what's been happening with our mind. And
Yeah. Yeah.
in my experience, I've not read any books. I don't like to learn about myself from other people or from other people's knowledge. I just pay attention to
Mhm.
myself,
Mhm.
and that's where whatever I know comes. If I make mistake, I do, but it doesn't matter to me. In my experience, how you can
Mhm.
be mentally fit is to understand how your mind and your emotions work. I always
Mhm.
give this example that if you want to learn to ride a car, you don't go to the driving instructor and ask him, or teach me to control your car. No, no, he'll say, no, no, you need to understand the basics first: how the gear works, how the steering works, how the
Mhm.
clutch works.
Mhm.
People want to control their minds. It doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
The approach should be, you have to understand the fundamentals of how a thought is
Mhm.
born, how two
Mhm.
thoughts connect,
Mhm.
how because of that thought the emotions are born. These things you need to observe,
Mhm.
and observing these things as a third person. This is what I used to do in the morning.
Mhm.
Just sit with
Okay.
my eyes closed or with my eyes open, it does not matter, and just observe what is going on in my mind, how a thought is coming, how it is uh, progressing. And it was like a river that's flowing. You are standing on the banks of that river, and you are observing that river. If you want to take a dip.
So So, in the context of your training, right, in the context of getting ready to for Mount
Yes.
Everest, something as daunting as that, what did you learn in this process of meditation? Did you learn something about yourself which you didn't know, which kind of added to your training?
So I would rather put this in a way that it was like peeling an onion, opening layers after layer. So it's not necessarily that you are learning something, but you are just opening layers and just seeing what is inside you. And learnings are like unlimited.
So, what did you see? What did you see?
Oh, just the
What were you seeing
yeah,
those
yeah,
days?
absolutely. So I was seeing how my mind works, how not my mind, how every mind works, because fundamentally how every mind works is the same. Just the content of your mind could be different, but how your mind works is the same.
Yeah,
Is it?
coming back to no, very
Mhm.
clear, very clear. So coming back to your training, right? We were let's connect the
Yeah.
dots here. So your day was starting at 3:30. You were
Mhm.
starting to meditate, and I guess what I'm hearing is just focusing, meditation, self awareness was a core component for you to get ready for something as big as Everest.
Absolutely.
Just connecting, just making sure that from an audience
Mhm.
who's listening to this, so they are able to connect between what you're doing and how
Yeah,
you're preparing.
absolutely.
So let's get
Yeah,
back there.
I'll.
So right. So let's get back into
Uh-huh.
meditation. Then what happened? What would you
Yes,
do after
and
that?
I'll just wrap this mind thing up with a, uh, you know, the real Everest is here. First, you have to climb this.
Hmm,
Then any Everest on the
hmm.
outside can be climbed. So then, at around 5:30 in the morning, I used to leave my house.
So what does that mean? I guess what you're saying, if I may translate
Mhm.
that for the viewers, is that the first thing you got to conquer is your fear. There's, when you look at something as daunting as a mountain, the first thing that comes to your mind is fear. It's like, main nahi kar sakta hai. This is so big.
Mhm.
And I think in what I'm hearing and what you're
Mhm.
saying is the first thing is to embrace the fact that you can do that, or you
Yes,
can
so
take on something as big as
absolutely. So
this,
that's
right?
where it starts. But there are so many other things. One of the major Everest in my mind that I have observed was the self doubt that you have. Because until you are there on that mountain, you don't know if you are ready or if you are doing the right things. But and then you
Yeah,
start questioning yourself, Ki, what I'm doing, is it right? Is
yeah,
it going to work? There are so many people around me who are saying that I'm stupid, I'm
yeah,
crazy for leaving engineering and rejecting the job offers and climbing mountains. And
yeah,
there are so many such things piling up in your mind. Dealing with them, that's very important. And
yeah.
staying on
Got it,
track,
got it,
no matter
got it.
what you do,
Yeah,
what
got it.
it takes. And I think this is
Yeah,
what I mean when I
got
say
it.
climbing that mountain within first. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, at
yeah.
around 5:30 in the morning, then I used to leave my house
Mm,
for either a very
mm,
long hike or a very long run. Behind my
mm,
house, there is a beautiful mountain. So I go there, I run. On
mm,
some days, I climb with a heavy backpack. Some days with a backpack of 25-30 kgs.
mm,
And
mm,
the morning was focused on stamina, and the evening there was a local gym where I used to go, and in the evening I used to work on my strength part. Stamina and strength are
mhm.
50-50, and of course there is a lot of, this is just a very brief overview, but there are a lot of
Yeah.
scientifically designed factors in my training which I used to inculcate.
Mhm,
But that's a whole
mhm.
different and a very deep topic to get into. But around, you can
Yeah,
say
yeah,
around 5 to 6 hours in a day I used to invest in building myself up. And along with this, I also touch upon the third pillar which I had mentioned, the fundraising part.
yeah, yeah,
Because most people might not know this, it costs around 30 lakh rupees, which is close to, if I'm not wrong with the math, around 40,000 US dollars. It's an expensive amount for a 22-year-old, for a middle
yeah.
class family. So
It is expensive for anybody. by all standards.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of money.
It's a
That's a
lot of
lot of
money,
money.
especially
Yeah.
in the world that we live in today, where uh, investing in anything apart from what is accepted in the norms of society,
Hmm.
especially like mountaineering, it's very difficult. And for me, raising the
Yeah.
funds was much more difficult than even climbing Mount Everest.
Hmm.
In the sense, I started
Hmm.
approaching corporates, I started approaching the government, state and central both, but got rejected meeting after meeting, meeting after meeting. And just to give you a little perspective of how this struggle was, as I said, I used to wake up at 3:30 in the morning and do my training and everything, then come back at my home, cook my food, clean my house. I used to stay alone. And then at around 9:30 I used to leave for a 2 hour long train ride in the Mumbai local trains, because I was
Hmm.
staying 2 hours away from the city. All these offices are in the city. You catch that train in crazy crowd morning time. You go to the meeting only
Hmm.
to be rejected, or on sometimes to be, you know, sweetly insulted by these so-called know all corporate people, and like, and hearing all sorts of rejections, facing all sorts of
Hmm.
roadblocks on the way. It really affected me mentally and emotionally, in the sense a lot of self-doubt rose inside me, that are these
Hmm.
adults age wise seeing something in me, the young idiot who's trying to climb Everest, which I'm not able to see. Maybe I'm not ready,
Hmm. Hmm.
maybe I'm not good enough, maybe they see something in me I'm not able to see. These things come in your mind when you are being rejected, when
Yeah.
on the other hand you are doing everything what it takes. This
Hmm.
one thing but I kept in my mind, that kept me on track. And मैं ये सबको हमेशा बोलता हूँ, आई से दिस टू एवरीबॉडी, कि इसको मूल मंत्र की तरह रखो अपनी लाइफ में. Output of whatever the hell you are doing might never be 100% in your control. There are too many factors, too many people involved in the outcome. But the input, nobody should be able to take that control from you. It is your business, it is your responsibility to take 100% action on your input. And this
Yeah.
idea
Yeah.
used to
Well
keep
said.
me grounded. And with this, I was able to, from corporate or government, zero support. I was also parallelly crowdfunding, asking for contributions from people. To my surprise, people started contributing towards me, and these were the people who've been following me on social media, my relatives, my friends. Somebody gave me 500 rupees, somebody gave me 5 lakh rupees, and it was a really good booster that there are at least some people who believe in me, and I need to go that extra mile. 50% I was able to raise through crowdfunding. Another 30% me and my dad from our savings we added, and remaining 20% we had to take a loan, which I'm still repaying right now as of 2021. So that's how the money came into place,
Wow.
and then I was ready for Everest.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing story, Parth, because it's almost like when people who starting a business have to go look for
Yes.
funds. In this case, it's almost like that, right? It's a venture. It's a big project. Um, Amazing. That's and I think there's a lot of gold in what you shared in terms of not giving up and
Mhm.
staying true to your effort and not getting disenchanted by the output, but eventually it came together,
Yeah, it
right?
always
So the
does.
intention is
It
very
always
important.
does. If your actions are in the right
Yeah.
direction, the outcome has to happen.
Yeah.
That's how the world works.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. So when did the actual summit happen? That was a 2019
Yes,
April, you said.
absolutely. No, so I left my home on 8th of April, and I submitted on 23rd May 2019 at 5 in the morning. So it was almost, thank you, almost 40-45 day long expedition. And it takes so much time to climb Everest, because Everest is not a mountain where you can just go and start climbing it. For example, if I take any human being from the sea level to the very top of the world by some magic, Any human being would be unconscious within 1 minute and dead within 3 to 5 minutes. Why? Because our bodies are not acclimatized. So to acclimatize, we spend a lot of time doing what we call as rotations, in which we start from the base camp, go to camp 1, spend a night, come back to base camp, rest for a few days, camp 1 spend a night, camp 2 spend a night, rest, and then come back to base camp, rest for a few days, camp 1, camp 2, camp 3, then come back to base camp, and now we are ready. So this upper niche, that takes a lot of time. So that's why the duration of the expedition is that long. But here, one more thing to keep in mind was, I didn't climb the Everest from the normal route, which is the route from Nepal. I climbed Everest from the Chinese side, from Tibet, because in 2019, I don't know if you saw this news of overcrowding happening on Everest, that viral picture of human traffic jam on the near the summit of Everest. And just to let you know what that means is, at that altitude, at 8,000 meters above 26,000 feet, where it is so cold, it's close to minus 30, minus 40 degrees Celsius. Oxygen levels in the atmosphere are less than 30% of what we breathe at sea level. And if that altitude, you cannot walk at your own pace, your fingers and toes will start getting cold, and then it will progress to something called as a frostbite, in which you'll have to amputate your fingers and toes. So this has been happening. Traffic jam seen on Everest Nepal side has been happening since the last 1 decade. So I chose to climb Everest from the more difficult, lesser climbed Chinese side. Hmm.
Awesome. So, how was it when you submitted? How was it for you?
Ah. Oh, ho, ho. So on 22nd May at around 8 in the night, we left for the summit push. The plan was to climb throughout the night, summit around sunrise time, be back at the last camp from where we started in the afternoon. So, I'll take you through the last night, uh, how the emotions and some incidences that happened up there were like. Uh, when I was in the last camp getting ready, just this one thought came into my mind, that 9 years of a dream, years of struggle, लोगों का उल्टा सीधा सुनना, all this for one night, this one bloody night. And I left with this beautiful thought in my mind, that this is it for me, this is the one night I've been training for. And I left, and suddenly a burst of energy which I was conserving within myself, it just burst forth, and I was able to walk faster than everybody else. I overtook everybody. Even my guide was not able to catch up with me, so I told him that, okay, I'll wait for you at certain checkpoints. We'll regroup, we'll see how we are, and then we'll proceed. But let me walk at my pace. So I was walking, and there's this section called as step 1, which is a huge rock and ice wall. I climbed that. It was night, around midnight in the night, and I climbed this step 1, and I'm sitting there, and in 15-20 minutes, my Sherpa comes up. I was supposed to wait for him here, and when he comes there, he looks at me, and in his local Nepali language, he abuses me. I'm like, what? He screams at me that, are you blind? Can't you see where you're sitting? I'm like, what happened? He says, look behind you. And I look behind me. I was sitting with my back rested on a human dead body, and I didn't see that. I don't know why I didn't see that, but and I immediately got up, and I freaked out. I mean, where do you see a dead body like this lying around? Of course, I had heard the stories, that you come across dead bodies on Everest, but it is one thing to just hear about it. It is another thing to see it, and I saw it, and I composed myself, and I started going ahead. And but while I was looking at that person, in a very strange way, I could see myself in him. Not in the sense that I'm going to die, or like, not these negative nonsensical thoughts, no. But
Mm-hmm.
I saw that that person, just like me, must be as passionate as me, as strong, as driven as me, must also have a family back home who's waiting for him. Maybe he made one little mistake and see what happens. And that's when I promised myself this one thing, that Parth, this mountain is not where you end. You will end one day, but not here. And I promised myself not even one mistake. Each and every step I have to be careful. And I've not shared this incident anywhere else, but because I can see that you would understand what I'm about to say, uh, suddenly a very different dimension of awareness opened up within me. What do I mean by that? I'll try to explain what I was experiencing up there. People might call this spiritual experience or mystical experience or whatever. I don't like to give it names. It just uh, loses its value. But maybe in for a normal human being, if you are talking, you move your hand, you move your neck like you are moving your neck right now. It's not happening consciously, is it? It's happening subconsciously. It's happening
Yeah,
unconsciously.
yeah, yeah.
But out there, if I wanted to blink my eye, if that was happening consciously, if I wanted to move my finger even this much, that was happening consciously. Wanted to take the next step, each and every movement of my legs, my muscle, that was happening consciously. The air going into my lungs, I could feel the oxygen molecules going in and then spreading across my body. Eventually, I could feel it on the cellular level. Each and every cell of my body was becoming aware. And, you know, if I wanted to take the next step, so you are wearing these spikes under your boots called crampons. So there's a certain sensation that happens on your feet when you take that step with the crampons on the rock or snow that you are stepping on. And even before taking that step, I used to get a sensation in my leg about how that next step used to would feel like. It was almost like I'm a part of that mountain already. I know how my next step would feel like. I'm part of that air. I'm part of that snow. I'm part of that surrounding. And that broadened sense of awareness, that heightened state of consciousness, in that state, by walking for hours in that state, I got some really beautiful insights about what we call as life, what we call as death, because I had just seen this dead body. And when you see a dead person in front of you, it is like a tight slap on your face about your life, about your mortality, the biggest reality of your life, which is death, which is about to come for everybody, maybe sooner or later. And it just awakens you. And if you are able to see this, uh, like, after this slap, if your eyes open, because most people are in such a deep sleep that one slap is not enough for them. But I had some beautiful insights into life, and
Beautiful.
yeah, it was a beautiful experience. But yeah,
Beautiful.
and I
Amazing.
continued, and on this last slope when I was there, I saw the prayer flags on the summit, and I completely broke down into tears. Around 50 feet away still, and this 9 year long journey was literally flashing in front of my eyes,
Yeah.
and I was like, "This is it, man. This is it. You are
Yeah.
walking those last few steps which you've obsessed about since so many years." Uh,
Yeah.
and I took
Yeah.
those last few steps. And 23rd May 2019 at 5 in the morning, I stepped on the very tip of the world. And I had the whole top of the world to myself. There was nobody up there. Uh, and I sat there. There was a small Buddha statue The first climbers who go up there every year, they place it there. And I just held the statue and put my head to it like this. And I said, "Thank you, God, for opening your gates for me. Thank you for giving me such a wonderful experience. And thank you for keeping me safe." And I sat down on the summit and I looked to my right, and to my utter disbelief, the timing of the universe, I saw the sunrise. Just the sun rose at that moment. It was almost theatrical, that at the age of 15, I wanted to see the sunrise from the top of the world. And just when I reached the top, that sunrise happened. And it was like, it was beautiful. Let's just say that it was
Yeah,
beautiful. And I had
yeah,
the whole top
yeah.
of the world to myself. There was nobody up there. I sat there, enjoyed the view, and I spent around 15 20
Beautiful.
minutes up there,
Amazing.
and I think I will remember them for the rest of my life.
Amazing. Amazing. Beautiful. So fast
Mhm.
forward, this happened. Fast forward, and for somebody who spent last
Mhm.
9 years of life for this is over. How did it leave you? Where were you left after this big achievement when you came down to planet Earth?
Oh, it's a very
When
interesting
you came back to your
question.
normal
Yeah,
life?
because you know, most people don't see this. Most people don't think about this. That okay, you climbed Everest, you achieved the biggest goal of your life.
Yeah.
What next? How was the next days like? And I've not shared this anywhere. I think uh, from the age of 15 until the age of 24,
Hmm.
which is the most prominent years of anybody's life. For me,
Hmm.
it was all about Everest. And I thought this
Hmm.
was a goal which would, if I do it, my life would be satisfied and everything would be blissful and perfect and I would be just a peaceful person. On the contrary, it was a complete contradiction to what I had thought after I got back. I got back
Hmm.
home, and now whichever mountain I would choose, this level of involvement, this level of dedication would not come. I knew that.
Yeah.
And I chose a next mountain as a goal, which was Annapurna. But I saw that it's not the same. And without
Hmm.
that struggle, without that involvement, without that effort, life feels incomplete. And after Everest,
Hmm.
I went into a complete pit within myself. The world around me
Hmm.
was ecstatic. Wherever I went in talks or in schools or wherever, everybody used to line up to take pictures with me and take my
Yeah.
autograph and whatnot. But within myself, I was a complete mess because I had no direction
Yeah.
now. Because this concept of goal setting was something I didn't ever think about. That an external
Yeah. Yeah.
thing can never be the ultimate goal of your life. That can never be something
Hmm.
that you put all your eggs into. That's not a basket you put your all
Hmm.
eggs into. That never gives you the
Yeah.
ultimate satisfaction. That may give you a certain
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, standing in the social world. That may give you a certain convenience and comforts in your external life. And I
Yeah.
started questioning myself that the ultimate goal of my life is done and I'm not fulfilled. So what is it? What is it that would fulfill me? And that's when my spiritual master came into my life, Sadhguru.
Hmm.
When they say when the student is ready, the master appears.
Hmm.
When the pain, when the scream of ignorance becomes loud enough, the master will hear you and he will come to your rescue. And
Hmm.
that's when this dimension of spirituality was introduced in my life. And I realized that the ultimate longing for any life on this planet can only find expression in the spiritual dimension. Because
Hmm.
and most people don't know this, like I didn't know this. And that's why we try to find the ultimate satisfaction or fulfillment in the external world, and that will never happen. If you are
Hmm.
a no one, for example, you would think that if you earn 1 lakh per month, your life would be fulfilled. But you reach there, then you think, oh, if I earn 10 lakh a month, I'll be fulfilled. Then you reach there, 1 crore a month, then it's never ending, because you are looking for that ultimate fulfillment in the wrong place. In the external world, accumulation is
Mm,
all that you can do, and how much ever you accumulate, it's incomplete. But there's a this longing is spiritual, which is trying to find expression in the external world. And I think that's when this idea of goal setting, the concept of goal setting, completely changed for me. And I came out
mhm.
of this pit uh, with the help of my master. And for me, now I know the difference between an external goal and the ultimate path. And I do external goal just up till the extent it is needed. I don't put all my eggs in that basket.
Yeah,
It is not for my satisfaction or
yeah.
happiness. It's just something I want to do. It is as simple as that.
What is fascinating in what you're sharing, Parth, is that you described when you were up in the mountains, you reached a point where you were at a point of full awareness. As when you read scriptures, when you read uh, spiritual works, when you read work on Zen, what you described was
Okay.
that you you described whatever you described sounds very similar to
Oh,
what the monks and the rishis would
oh,
describe. And then you came back down, and that was gone.
yeah.
You lost it.
Yes. Yes.
It's kind of very interesting, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
That it's you can't hold it, you can't get hold of it, it just comes and
And
goes.
that's when the spiritual practices come in.
Mm,
This is what happened by fluke. Just the conditions were right,
yeah.
some things were right, mindset,
Mm,
physical state,
yeah,
everything
yeah,
was
yeah,
aligned, so it happened. But to do it consciously, to be there in every waking
yeah, yeah,
moment of your
yeah,
life, is when the spiritual
yeah,
practices that are designed by
yeah,
these masters, they come in.
yeah. And I think you're lucky because you saw it, you experienced it, and you know how it feels, and you know the difference between what is fake and what is real.
Hmm.
So I know we've spent almost an hour talking about your journey, and I think we can spend a few more hours talking about your journey, and maybe we'll have to come back and talk again. Uh, but I want to move on to the next part of our conversation, and you also went back and made an attempt at
Hmm.
Annapurna, and I think last year,
Oh, a few months ago.
a few months ago. So, and I think what happened there?
Well, what happened on Annapurna was, so for people who don't know what Annapurna is the 10th highest peak in the world, just 800 meters shorter than Mount Everest, but a thousandfold more difficult and more dangerous than Everest. In fact, Annapurna 1 is the most dangerous peak in the world to climb. One out of three people who go there never make it back alive. So that's the kind of reputation Annapurna has. So I went there. I had prepared very well. Uh, the acclimatization rotations went pretty smoothly. Everything was good. It was a dangerous mountain, no doubt about it, but everything was going pretty smoothly. Uh, then for the summit push, when we left the base camp to go for the summit, 5 days prior to the summit date target, as soon as I left the base camp, something very weird started happening to me in my stomach. Uh, and suddenly I had an uncontrolled bout of diarrhea and vomiting. A stomach infection caught me just when the worst timing that could be. But I was like, okay, no, this will not stop me. I'll take a bloody antibiotic, but I'll not stop. So with that diarrhea, and I'm telling you, matlab, if there was one point where I was hanging on a vertical slope and I had to go two number, and I think that was the most terrible experience of my life. But like part of the parcel. But I reached camp one from base camp, and I took the antibiotic. I was feeling okay then. After 2 doses of antibiotic, I was feeling okay. But with this diarrhea comes weakness. That never really goes away, especially at that altitude. Your body does not recover. Uh, Next day, when I woke up in the morning, I was feeling very weak. The diarrhea had stopped. I pushed myself with a strong mind. I pushed my weak body up to Camp 2 somehow. Struggling. A 3 hour journey took me 7 hours, but I made it. जैसे तैसे पहुंच गया मैं वहां पे. Next morning, between Camp 2 and Camp 3, was probably the most difficult climb I have ever done in my life, I would say. Uh, it was crazy. But I made it there. Uh, Next day, between Camp 3 and Camp 4, was somewhere where I completely lost it. Uh, my my body between Camp 3 and Camp 4 was not feeling that good, and I know what exhaustion feels like. We've been exhausted and we know how to push through it. We know what is the safe limit of how much to push. But what I was experiencing up there was much beyond exhaustion. Something was seriously wrong with me, and I unclipped myself from the fixed rope and I sat down in the snow on the slope. And I asked myself, what's really happening here? Because this one thing I always do in my life, whenever something that especially when something negative is happening with me, I try to look at me as a third person. Maybe if you are talking to a friend, for example, I thought this way up there, that if it was my climbing partner who was going through the same thing that I'm going through, what would I say to him? And I knew this one thing. I would say, अगर तेरी ये हालत है, if you are in this condition, go back down. There's no iota of doubt. Go back down.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
it's really on you, it's a little difficult
Yeah.
to say that to yourself. But I knew, and I mentally prepared myself, and I asked myself these two questions:
Mhm.
will I be able to make it to the top? 100%
Mhm.
yes. Will I be able to make it down with the energy I'll have left? 100% no.
Mhm.
And this is
Okay.
something, this 100% no was something which was a little scary for me. And I took a call and I started to go down. My Sherpa was coming up and
Okay.
I looked at him. He looked at me and we realized what is happening. But still, to confirm, I asked him, Dai. Dai means bhai, bade bhai, big brother. What do I do? He's like, Parth, you need to go down. And that's when it
Mhm.
was confirmed, because I was holding on to that hope that maybe my Sherpa would do something,
Yeah.
some magic or something. Maybe, it was stupid, but you hold on
Mhm.
to that one strand of hope.
Yeah.
But this is when the ropes were completely cut for me and I broke down into tears.
Mhm.
uh, I looked behind. The summit of Annapurna was so close. It was so bloody close. And I knew if I start going down, each and every step I take would take me farther away to bloody square one, where I have to start
Mhm.
training again, start raising the money again, and oh, whatnot.
Mhm.
But I've lived by this one thing because I've seen too many people die
Mhm.
in my life in the mountains. I've seen too many accidents,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And for me, summit is not success, safety is
Yeah.
success. Summit is an
Mhm.
added bonus. Bas. Khatam. And I was in tears looking at Annapurna and telling her that, okay, maybe I'm not ready for you. Maybe you think
Right.
that I should go back home and prepare one more time. I'll do it. No problem.
Yeah.
I'll come back
Yeah.
next year. And thank you for keeping me safe and giving me the sense to take this call. And with tears flowing down my eyes, I was really heartbroken, really shattered, because for 2 years I had invested my life, my money, my resources into this one goal, and few hours away I had to turn around. But I started going down, and when I reached the base camp, this one moment when I turned around, if I used to think of that, I used to break down into tears. Tears as in uncontrollable tears used to come down from my eyes. And still, like, if I that moment when I think about it, I just just break down into tears. And but there is not even 1% regret in my mind that I turned around. It's one thing to feel sad, but you regret when you know you've done the wrong thing. But I did the right thing up there, and there's no regret. And Annapurna was probably the most beautiful mountain I have ever seen in my life, and I'm lucky that I get to experience it again next year. So, and I hope
Yeah,
next year
absolutely. That's the
she
spirit.
accepts me.
No, that's the spirit, and that's what you are being training yourself, the spiritual side, not to be buried by uh, I wouldn't say failure, but
A bad experience.
sometimes you plan something, it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
work out. Yeah, yeah. But that's
Uh,
the whole, that's what a mountaineer
yeah.
does, and that is what you
Yes.
are. So you'll be
Hmm.
back, and you're also planning to climb all the peaks in each continent, right? Or what's next for you? Let me
Yeah.
ask you about that.
So broadly, the goal in my mind right now is there are 14 peaks in the world which rises above the altitude of 8,000 meters, which is 26,000 feet. In
Hmm.
other words, the 14 highest mountains in the world. So I'm on this
Hmm.
mission to climb that. No Indian has ever climbed all the 14. The youngest
Hmm.
person in this elite list is 33-year-old, and only 39 people in the world have so far climbed all the 14 mountains. So it's a very long project.
Hmm.
It's a very long-term project, and along with this, the kind of struggles I went through
Hmm.
in terms of raising the funds, especially, I realized the grassroots problem behind this. It is the
Hmm.
lack of awareness about this sport. For me,
Hmm.
it's my life's mission that, and maybe if all goes well, I'll live 40, 50 years more. By the time I'm gone, for my upcoming generation, I want to open up avenues. I want to create a well defined path for them so that they don't have to go through the struggles that I went through. I go to these mountain states of Himachal Pradesh and Ladakh and Uttarakhand. I see so much amazing talent, and the only thing
Hmm.
stopping them is the bloody money. And I think
Hmm.
it's really sad that there is no policy or no infrastructure or no system in place to take care of such talents. And
Hmm.
for me, this is my life's goal, that the sport which has given me everything. Uh, by the time I'm gone, I should take it to the next level. And I'm doing a
Hmm.
lot of things in this regard. I'm going in places, and I'm everywhere in schools and colleges and travel events, and I'm just sharing all these things and just spreading awareness. This something like this
Yeah.
happens even in the village where I stay. The small village schools, where they, the barely a classroom for them, barely working fan in their school. I'm going in all these places and just trying to spread awareness of कि ऐसा भी कुछ है. Staying in your village, I climbed Mount Everest. So, they should know these things. And
Yep.
I think this is the responsibility that our generation who is in this field of adventure sports holds, that you just speak about this. Just
Hmm.
be out there, bloody
Yeah.
out there. Just talk about this. And I think if the awareness increases, things will happen.
All right. So, Path, it was a fantastic conversation. Learned a lot in the process. For a young person, you're very wise and you're very experienced. And thank you for sharing
Thank
your
you.
wonderful story. So, we're coming to the last part of our conversation, where I have a fun Q&A round with my guests. So, are you ready for that?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. Let me pull up those questions then. Okay. First one.
Hmm.
What's your favorite junk food?
Pani Puri.
Pani puri.
Yes,
Nice.
I'm crazy for that.
Uh, Being a Mumbaiker, I'm not
Yes,
surprised.
Yes, and in fact, after this lockdown, today was the first time I saw a pani puri wala open. So just few hours ago, I had my first pani puri after 4 months.
Awesome. And Pani Puri is not entirely junk because it's got a lot of good stuff in it too.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like a good junk.
Yes, good junk. Yeah.
Good junk. All right. Next one.
Mhm.
What's the most difficult part of living outside the norm?
Well, people constantly trying to tell you that you are wrong, you are stupid, you are not doing it right. That's I think the
Mm,
most distracting part. Just
mm.
fills you with a lot of toxicity.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, one of my guests had said that that's absolutely right, and one of my guests is out lives outside the norm had said that sometimes you have to embrace it and be a leader, and in that way you're a leader.
Ooh. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Something you love to do when you're not mountaineering.
Oh, I love to read books. I love to read. Sorry, I like to watch some Netflix, good movies, good
Huh?
TV shows. I really enjoy that. And I before I moved to the mountains, I didn't have enough time on my hand to do these things, but now I do. So I have started enjoying good movies and good TV shows and good books. Keeping it
Any
simple.
any favorite TV shows?
Oh, one of my favorite TV show would be Breaking Bad, or on the
Okay.
fun side would be Friends or Two and a Half Men. And like it's like if you've had a rough day or a hard day, you just watch it for 20 minutes and
Yeah,
you are recharged, reset. It's one of those things. Friends or Two
yeah,
and a Half Men, or maybe when you are having a beer, you watch Two and a Half Men. It's one of those things. A random episode
yeah,
would
yeah,
just charge you up.
yeah,
But
yeah,
nowadays,
yeah, yeah.
on
Beautiful.
Netflix, there are so many amazing series and movies that are coming up that every time you watch something, you think that it's your new favorite. It's your new favorite.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Awesome. Terrific. A song that uplifts or inspires you.
Two songs. One is Indian Summers by Jai Wolf. It's a
Okay.
electronic music song, and it's not necessarily the song that uplifts me, but it's the memories attached with that song. I used to
Mhm.
stay with a mountaineer mentor of mine. In fact, the guy who I saw on news coverage at the age of 15 in the TV with my father, the same guy
Mm.
eventually ended up becoming my mentor. And every morning when we used to wake up, we used to work out on this one song. And just this one song has become like the anthem of my life. And the
Wow.
other song is one of my new favorites. It's called Jerusalema. It's a beautiful song. It's an African song, but it's beautiful. I
Wow.
love it.
Should check it out. I haven't heard
Yeah.
both. We'll check it out. We'll check
Hmm.
it out. All right. The last one, which I ask all my guests, which is my
Hmm.
favorite question, is
Hmm.
if a movie were
Hmm.
made of you, about you,
Hmm.
A, what genre? I guess I know what you're going to say, but what genre? And who would you like to play your role?
Oh, I would like well, Hindi or English.
You choose. That's your choice.
Oh well, if it is Hindi, I would like Shah Rukh Khan to play me.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
if it is English, I think Leonardo DiCaprio would be my
Mhm.
ideal. He's my favorite actor, and I think he can pull it off well. The kind of journey I've had, the kind of energy I
Yeah,
have, I think he vibrates on the same energy, and I think he can pull it off. And even Shah Rukh Khan, I can like
yeah, yeah.
I can imagine that some.
Leonardo played. Leonardo didn't. I thought he. I think 2 years back he played a role where it was all about mountaineering, and he was in the middle of cold weather. I don't remember the
Revenant,
movie, but
Revenant. It won him the first Oscar.
Revenant. Yeah, yeah,
Revenant,
yeah,
yes. But it was,
yeah,
yeah, it was an stunning movie, and what a
yeah,
performance!
yeah,
That guy,
yeah, yeah,
crazy, crazy.
yeah. Shah Rukh Khan, on the other hand, might start singing in the Everest summit.
Oh well, On the way, even I used to sing and dance. So why not? Even at the base camp, I was
Absolutely.
dancing on Chaya Chaya. So
I love that. I would love to watch that movie.
yeah, me too.
And what genre?
Oh, I think it would come in adventure kind of a thing. I don't know.
Adventure.
Yeah.
Even Shah Rukh Khan, it's got to be a romantic comedy. Yeah. You probably met some girl when you were going up in the mountain, and
Oh, let's
what
not get
happened. It
into
would
that.
be
Let's not get into that. Too many things can come out.
okay. Okay. Awesome. You did well. You did well. Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
sir.
sharing. Learned a few things more about you. So we're coming to end of this conversation. I think you're going off. Yeah, you're back. So we are coming to the end of our
Mm-hmm.
conversation here,
Mm-hmm.
Parth.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I really wish you the very best in the very fascinating journey and mission that you've taken on. Hope
Thank
you
you.
conquer all those 14 mountains. Continue to inspire. Continue to stay focused on the mission of making endurance adventure sports
Mm-hmm.
accessible to people.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think it makes a huge difference to quality of life. And you are so wise for your age, and continue to explore and
Oh,
keep
thank you
inspiring
so
all of
much.
us.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me. And it means a lot that you had me on your show and you asked such amazing questions. So thank you so much for that.
All
Okay.
right, I'll let you go, Path. Thanks again, and we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely, sir. And after I climb Annapurna next year, I hope to be on your show again to share my experiences. Huh? Deal?
Absolutely,
Deal.
absolutely.
Done.
That I'm going to call on you for that.
Done.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.